I put on this hat to look more autumnal for this video, but now I think I just look like I belong in the Peaky Blinders. Hello everybody, it is Katie here. It's that time of year again, so you know we're going to talk about autumnal books. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about this. So if you are a returning viewer, then you will know that my brand has been the Queen of Teen Fiction since I started on BookTube. I came up with the name when I started my book blog back in 2011. So it's been 13 years of the Queen of Teen Fiction. And at the time when I started my blog, what I really wanted to do was pair young people up with books that they needed to read, mostly because I didn't really have that sort of thing when I was a teenager. I didn't have a fantastic school library or a hero librarian. We didn't have book blogs, booktube, book talk back then. So I didn't really get into reading YA books until I was in my late teens and early 20s. And it was only then that I saw how important those books were. And I know that if I'd have read some of those books back when I was a teenager, I'd have been a lot less confused about life. And so that is one of the main reasons why I started my blog and why I chose that name. And whilst that is still massively important to me, I just felt like the teen fiction aspect of that brand name wasn't reflecting who I was as a reader anymore. You know, I want to celebrate all stories and all reader age groups. So I decided that I wanted to change my name, but it's hard when you've been under a brand name for so long that it's integral to who you are as a person. I also really liked my royalty theme. My rating system on my blog is based on royalty. I like the crown logo, so I didn't want to change all of that. I just wanted to drop the teen part, but the Queen of Fiction just wasn't cutting it. So I had to brainstorm some ideas that had Queen in it, but of course it's 2024. Most things are taken by now. So eventually my sister came up with the Queen of Lexis. She has an English degree, so lexicon was something that she learnt to hate over the course of 3 years. But it worked perfectly for the sort of name that I wanted. So yeah, the Queen of Lexis now. Nothing else has changed. Logo's still the same. The colour scheme. And so is the actual content. I still mostly read YA books and talk about YA books, but still, I just felt like I needed a better name. So let's get into the real reason why we're here today, and that's to talk about my favourite season. I can't quite believe that it's September already. It feels like this year has gone so fast, but then painfully slow in other areas. Very, very weird. I've also had a lot going on in life, which is why I haven't been making very many videos, but I've been keeping up with my reading. I'm on track to hit my reading goal this year, hopefully. So I have quite an ambitious autumn TBR for myself this year. So usually around this time of year I do like autumn book recs or Halloween book recs, but after years of doing that content, I've started to realise that I just recommend the same books over and over again. So it's about time I read some new autumnal books so that I can recommend them to you next year. So I thought I'd just share with you my autumnal TBR. And when I say autumn, I mean like from now until like mid-November. That's the autumn reading period for me. So the first book on my list is The Other Ones by Fran Hart. Look at the gorgeous edges on this book. So I wanted to read this one last year, but I didn't actually managed to buy a copy, but then I found it in a clearance box at the start of the year just because it's a tiny bit damaged. I don't care what the book looks like. I want to read it. I was too broke to buy it last year, so I was gonna buy it while it was on sale. So it has been living on my TBR trolley until the autumn season. So now is finally the time to read it. I don't know much about the plot other than it has something to do with ghosts. That's really all you need to sell a book to me. I love ghosts. It seems like a group of teenagers, some are already friends, some are new to the group. They end up facing their ghostly problems together. So yeah, I'm excited to finally read this one. Next up is 16 Souls by Rebecca Talbot. This is another one that I meant to read last year because I saw it everywhere, but again, I never got around to it. I will this year, I am determined. I know that in this book, our main character teams up with a ghost to find out the truth behind some disappearances, I think. You put a person and a ghost together and I'm there, so I'm excited. You know I'm always seeking out UK YA books as well, so this one's set in York. I have been to York once as a child. I don't remember it, but I know from pictures that it's lovely. Next up we have Gideon the Ninth by Tasman Muir. I have seen this book absolutely everywhere. So many people have recommended it. The only reason I bought it is because I was in one of my favourite bookshops buying another book, and the person who was working at the till was like, you need this. And I am very easily persuaded, so I bought it. And I haven't had the chance to read it yet, so I figured the run up to Halloween was the perfect time. Again, I don't know much about this because I've tried to stay away from spoilers because I feel like it's something that I am going to love and I wanted to experience all of that for myself. But I know there's necromancy. I'm always down for a bit of necromancy. And I think it's sapphic, so I'm in. Next on my autumn TBR is Young Gothic by M.A. Bennett. So it's four strangers teaming up at a famous Gothic residence. Spooky things occur. That's about all I know. So the reason I ended up buying this is because it was on a list of queer books that were going to be released this year. The cover really drew me in because it's so gorgeous and just the sound of it, the vibes. I have a feeling it's more thriller mystery, so I'm interested to see how much I like it because I do love mystery books, but when it comes to thriller fiction, I'm really hit and miss with it, so I guess we will see. The next book is Now Conjurers by Freddie Kolsch. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I literally bought this because I'm absolutely in love with the cover. This cover art, delicious. Just from looking at it alone, I wanted to get to know these characters. So the blurb tells me that it's set in 1999. I love reading books that are set in the 90s because I was a young child in the 90s, so I remember it, but through my little kid eyes. I was 7 when this book was set. I know that one of the characters is dead and the other characters try and find out what happened. Pretty sure they're a coven as well. It definitely feels very Halloween-y, so I'm probably going to leave this one until October, but I really hope that it lives up to the cover. And if it doesn't, then I only have myself to blame for being an auto. I couldn't end the list without including a graphic novel or comic, so the last thing I want to read in the autumnal season is Medieval. So this is a prequel comic to my favourite game of all time. So this was the first game I ever played on my little PlayStation 1 that was given to me by my uncle. I couldn't afford a PlayStation when I was younger. I couldn't afford games, so I took his old console and whatever games that he would throw at me, and he gave me this game. It was a game that my dad really loved as well, so it was something that we really bonded over. I do tend to get sad at this time of year now because it is the run-up to the anniversary of his death, so I always try and do something that honours his memory a little bit, so I feel like I just had to add this to the list. So the game was released on PlayStation 1 and there was a sequel on PlayStation 1 as well. Then they remastered it for the PSP, and that is the only reason that I bought a PSP when I was a teenager. My parents saved for so long to get me one of those things just so I could play the remastered version of this. Then they remastered it again for PlayStation 4. It's also the reason why I bought PlayStation 4. I was like, you know, I don't need a PlayStation 4. It's expensive. I'm broke. I mostly play PC games. It's fine. I don't need one. And then they announced this. So life had to change and I had to save up and get PlayStation 4 just to play this again. Best decision I ever made. I adored playing a proper remastered version of it. And then this is a prequel comic that the creators of the games wrote a few years ago, and I've only just managed to get myself a copy, and I'm so excited. Genuinely, when I think of my childhood, I think of this game. It's so underrated. They don't make games like this anymore. So that is my autumn TBR for this year. Will I end up going to the bookstore, finding something else, and throwing that in my TBR instead? Probably. But as of right now, that's the list of books that I want to get through. I'm just so easily distracted. If you've read any of those books, then please do let me know all of your thoughts and feelings on them down in the comments. And let me know what you're planning on reading in the run up to Halloween. I hope you have a wonderful crunchy leaf season. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!